Hey, welcome back Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy. The Flash just changed the timeline and created a new universe. Now we got a new Batman and it's George freaking Clooney. So what happens now? Because the changes don't stop with the new Batman. We're getting a different Superman and a brand new rebooted DC universe. What else did Barry change? And what's going to be his next story after everything that went down in The Flash? I got the perfect story for the Flash sequel, including who should be the villain, how Barry's story will change, and what other speedsters and characters we're going to see in The Flash 2 and in the future of the DCU. Also, I'm going to explain how Michael Keaton could return as Batman, as well as Supergirl, and even Affleck, and how The Flash might have given us hints for a massive multiversal crossover event in the DCU.
If you were to go into the past, any interaction you had with your parents or yourself, you step on the wrong blade of grass, you have no idea what the consequences to that could be.
Alright, at the end of The Flash, Barry realizes that he cannot save his mother, so he must let her murder happen to fix the timeline that he broke. Barry still makes a small change in the past, though, to get his father exonerated from Nora's murder. The thing is that even one teeny tiny change can rewrite reality, and this is how George Clooney is now Batman.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman.
But we already got a new Batman, and I really like him.
That's right, Robert Pattinson's Batman is incredible, but he is part of Matt Reeves' Batverse. Those films fall under the Elseworld stories, movies and shows that have separate continuities from the DCU. The Batman takes place in a gritty and realistic world, so he just wouldn't jive with characters like the Flash and Superman. So Clooney's Batman will be the one who is part of the DCU, and obviously he's going to be a much older Batman who exists in a fantastical world who can naturally interact with other superheroes. There's so much more to explain about this new Batman, and we've got a video coming out very soon breaking down everything you need to know about Clooney's take and what kind of Batman we'll be getting in the DCU. But for this video, I want to focus primarily on the Flash.
Hey, this isn't like you. Maybe you're from another timeline.
I'm not from another timeline.
Well, then why are you holding a glass of wine? You never drink wine.
And no, Doug, actually wine drinking is not just for elitist wine snobs. In fact, I have recently learned a great deal about wine. This wine is called Batik. It's a light-bodied wine, quite crisp, with hints of kiwi and ginger, and the card here says that it pairs well for a picnic with friends.
Hey, how'd you learn all that?
Because of Bright Cellars. They're the sponsor of this video. Bright Cellars is this incredible wine subscription program that makes trying new wines fun and not intimidating. I started by taking a 7-question quiz, asking things like, what do I like to drink? What kind of chocolate do I like? And then they came up with 6 recommendations tailored to my taste, sent straight to my front door. Buying wine can be really intimidating, but they selected these 6 wines from more than 100 varietals sourced from more than 80 wine regions. I've opened up 3 of them so far and they are delightful. But hey, you know me, I'm an explainer. So what I really like is that they send these education cards for each bottle that outline tasting notes, suggested pairings, their origins, and more. And this is the best part for a novice wine drinker like me, they have a satisfaction guarantee. If you don't like a bottle, they will replace it. And this is why Bright Cellars has more than 600,000 5-star reviews. But I'm mostly excited to try wines that I would have never tried before. You know, I'm always into trying new things. In fact, since I have these education cards, I might just have a wine tasting picnic with all my friends.
Oh, well, that sounds like fun. Am I your friend? Can I come to your wine tasting?
How would that even work? You can't drink, you're made out of cloth. It makes no sense.
Ah, delicious!
Okay, so Bright Cellars is offering Screen Crush subscribers your first 6-bottle box for more than half price. Normally it's $150, but your first box is only $70. So click the link in the description to take the quiz and get started today. Now back to what I was saying. So after Barry changes the past, we get a whole new world. Other than Batman, many characters will be different after The Flash, such as Superman, who's being rebooted for James Gunn's Superman Legacy, assuming that the ending of The Flash is actually the first entry in the DCU.
Well, what does that mean?
Well, in the credits scene, we see that Jason Momoa is still Aquaman, so he might not be that different. This might indicate that the ending of The Flash is sort of in limbo when it comes to these characters' futures. That's because Ezra Miller's future is still uncertain, despite DC Studios claiming that Miller won't be recast. They are extremely problematic, and Warner Brothers might end up recasting him. And Gunn and DC Studios are likely waiting to see how The Flash and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom are received, and how they perform at the box office before they commit to the continuation of these particular characters.
And the first DCU character for sure is Blue Beetle. And the first full DCU movie is Superman.
Anyways, that's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I don't really want to get into right now, and instead, let's focus on the fun stuff. Let's talk about the future stories for The Flash. Barry's actions of changing the past and creating a new timeline are very similar to what happened in the Flashpoint storyline from the comics. That's the storyline the movie is based on. Like in the movie, Flash went back in time to save his mom. He created a really horrible alternate timeline, and in the end, he reset the universe. But in doing so, he also rebooted the entire DC Comics continuity. This is how we got a new universe called the New 52, which reimagined all the DC heroes. This is basically what's happening right now with the DCU.
These timelines are so confusing.
The thing is, Barry retains all of his memories from before he changed the timeline. This new timeline has a different history from the one Barry originates from. Batman is older, and there's going to be a new and younger Superman. And based on the ending, Barry didn't gain new memories after the timeline was changed, seeing as how he doesn't recognize the new Batman.
Who the f*** are you?
So for Barry, it's sort of like the ending of Days of the Future Past. Logan wakes up in the future and he doesn't have any memories of the altered timeline. And this is probably what the sequel will explore, Barry adjusting to the new timeline, as well as the consequences of him messing everything up and giving most of his friends new faces. Now the ending is presented in a comedic light, but Bruce was his good friend, and for Barry, it's like the Bruce that he knew is dead, and he was the one who killed him. Barry erased him from existence.
Erased from existence.
And I don't think that Clooney's Batman shares the same exact history with Affleck's Batman. I mean, why would they recast and reboot the DCEU if ultimately this is the same Batman with just a different face? Regardless, that's pretty serious guilt for Barry to carry, the fact that he erased most of his friends.
Yeah, but can't it just run back and change the past again?
No, that will only make things worse. That's the whole point of the Flash movie. I mean, he already turned Affleck into Clooney. Next time he might turn Batman into Birdman. See, it's the ship of Theseus problem. The more Barry changes time, the less recognizable his reality will be. So Barry's going to have to accept his responsibility and try to live in the new world that he created. Also, how would Barry's memories affect this new timeline? He has knowledge of things that have happened. For example, what if this universe wasn't attacked by Darkseid yet? So what happens if Barry warns the other heroes about Darkseid and his army? Would that mess up the future?
If I tell you what happens, it won't happen.
What I can see happening is that Barry will have a clash of old memories with new ones from the current timeline, meaning that he will start gaining new memories from the new universe despite not experiencing them himself. That's too many memories. The mind only has so much storage, and no one can handle so many conflicting memories. In fact, his older memories might start fading away. All of this fits perfectly with one of the best Flash comics, and it's the story that should be adapted for the sequel.
So what story is that?
That is Flash Rebirth. It is one of the most influential Flash stories of all time. Rebirth explored Barry adjusting to a new timeline after he went missing for a long time. In fact, like in the movie, this story explores Barry after returning from a different universe that was erased and reset.
Yeah, provided he has already read Infinite Crisis and 52 and is familiar with the reestablishment of the DC multiverse.
Yeah, person, comics are confusing. Can you explain this a little more?
Alright, I'm going to do my best to briefly explain the highly complex chain of events that led to Flash Rebirth. Back in 1985, DC Comics did this epic multiversal crossover event called Crisis on Infinite Earths. Remember this for later. What you need to know about it is that Barry stopped the evil plans of a villain called the Anti-Monitor, who's a really powerful being that wanted to destroy the whole multiverse. Barry sacrificed himself to stop the Anti-Monitor, and he ran so fast that he vanished into the Speed Force. That's the energy Barry is harnessing when he runs and travels through time. Barry went missing for 23 whole years, and that's real life 23 years, which is an insane amount of time to be dead in the comics.
So there was no Flash for all that time?
No, there was another.
There is another.
While Barry was gone, someone else became the Flash, a character who some consider to be the best Flash, but more on him in just a minute. Barry eventually returned after another big crossover event called Final Crisis. The Flash Rebirth dealt with Barry's return, but here's the thing. Barry's original universe was erased after Crisis on Infinite Earths. He returns to a new world with a different history from the one he remembered, same as in the movie The Flash. And this will work really well for Flash 2, since Barry is coping with the changes that he made to the timeline, having the depressing realization that he can never go back.
We have to go back!
The first movie explores Barry accepting the past and understanding that he must allow his mother to die for the sake of the multiverse. The sequel can expand on the idea of this one person who has the godlike ability to rewrite reality whenever he wants. So the conflict for Flash is to accept his reality as it is and deal with the problems without running away and changing the timeline. This is also a way to explain in-universe why Flash won't just change the past whenever something goes really wrong. And to contrast this challenge, the sequel would introduce a villain who deliberately misuses the Speed Force. So once again, the Flash Rebirth should be the source of adaptation here, since the villain of that story was the Reverse Flash.
Oh yeah, the Flash that runs backwards really fast.
How would that even work?
I know, you guys said Reverse Flash, I'm just trying to work it out.
No, dude, he's a speedster who's like Barry, only evil. His real name is Eobard Thawne, but sometimes he goes by Professor Zoom.
Zoom, really? Should have been called Professor Vroom. Vroom, 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 vroom.
You are on fire today, high five. Reverse Flash is the arch nemesis of the Flash in the comics. While Barry harnesses the Speed Force, Thawne controls the negative Speed Force, hence why he is the Reverse Flash and his lightning is red.
So he's like a Sith speedster?
Pretty much, the negative Speed Force is like the dark side of the Force. It's like a cosmic cancer. It corrupts the Speed Force and the speedsters, and it also absorbs their energy. So in the future, Flash is remembered as one of the greatest heroes ever. Eobard idolized Flash, but in a very fanatical and excessive way.
After all, I am your biggest fan.
He even recreated Barry's accident to gain speedster ability since he wanted to be a hero just like his idol. But in an ironic twist of fate, Thawne discovered that his destiny is to become Barry's most bitter enemy and that he will be killed by Barry in the future. So in a paradoxical, self-fulfilling prophecy, Eobard became the Reverse Flash.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Since then, he terrorized Flash like some psychotic time-traveling stalker who's obsessed with making Barry's life a living hell. Because of time travel, there are multiple versions of him existing all at once on the timeline. So it's basically impossible to kill him since he always comes back. And this created a paradoxical rivalry between them since technically they created each other. Thawne unintentionally caused the accident that gave Barry his powers. This is why Thawne can't kill the Flash. If Barry doesn't become Flash, Thawne won't be inspired by him, which means that he will never have existed and thus all versions of him will be erased from the timeline. And then in Flash Rebirth, Thawne revealed that he was the one who murdered Barry's mom.
Whoa, say what?
It was him. He was behind it all. He went back in time and he killed Nora. And the death of Barry's mother is the inciting event that set him on the course to become the Flash. Hence why Barry and Thawne created each other.
I think you and I are destined to do this forever.
Anyways, the way the Reverse Flash should be used in Flash 2 is him manipulating time without caring about the consequences, like some time-traveling serial killer. Imagine this, the Flash saves someone from being killed, and then Thawne changes the past and erases that person from existence right in front of Barry's eyes. That would be horrific.
But won't that break the universe?
Well, it sort of depends. The way the movie explains it, there are certain points in time called irreversible intersections. These events cannot be changed, like the death of Barry's mom and the ending of the movie where both Batman and Kara keep dying. Attempting to change these events will break the universe. Other changes, I think, just mess with the timeline. We have made a video explaining all of that in case you're confused about how time travel works in the movie. In the final battle, the actions of the younger Barry and the Dark Flash threaten the multiverse, and that will be very important for a future multiverse conflict, and I'm going to explain that a little later in this video. Anyway, all of this is the reason why the Reverse Flash will be the perfect villain for the sequel. He is the antithesis of Flash. Now, what's interesting here is that in the comics, the Reverse Flash was introduced long before Flashpoint. In fact, discovering that Thawne killed his mother is the very reason why Barry went back in time to save her. But in the movie, it will be in reverse order. Reverse Flash will be introduced after Barry already tried to save his mom, and now he knows the terrible consequences of messing with time. So it's only tragically fitting that after he sacrificed his mom for a better future for everyone, he is now facing the very man who took his mother from him, making the Reverse Flash the living embodiment of all of Barry's pain and failings, like a buzzsaw ripping apart those scars of agonizing trauma. The movie The Flash dealt with what Barry lost. This is why the sequel needs to explore the things that Barry has in his life to keep moving forward and become the hero that he was meant to be. Focus on Barry's relationships with his father and friends, as well as Barry's love with Iris West, because that is an essential aspect in all of Barry's story, something the movie barely touches on. And after overcoming all of that, Barry could run brighter than ever before and become one of DC's most hopeful and inspiring heroes.
Now run, Barry, run!
Other than his father and Iris, there's another person who could help Barry deal with his own trauma in the Reverse Flash in the sequel.
Batman?
Nope, somebody more important, at least to Barry, and that is the other fan-favorite Flash, Wally West. Wally is considered by many fans to be the best Flash.
The bad guys went down and nobody got hurt. You know what I call that? A really good day.
For many fans, Wally was their Flash. Remember how I told you that Barry died in Crisis on Infinite Earths?
Oh yeah, and then it disappeared for a long time, right?
Exactly. Well, before Barry went missing, Wally was his sidekick, going by Kid Flash. But after Barry went away, he became the new Flash, and he kept on being Flash afterwards. And it totally doesn't become confusing once Barry came back. Most fans probably know Wally from the Amazing Justice League animated series. He was one of the many fan favorites in Young Justice, where he appeared as the Kid Flash. And on top of that, Wally is the fastest man alive, even faster than Barry himself. So Flash 2 should 100% introduce Wally as Barry's partner. Barry was his younger self's mentor in The Flash. So in the sequel, we could see a more experienced Barry who has matured into the role of the Flash, and now he's mentoring Wally as the Kid Flash. And this would be a nice contrast to the Reverse Flash, who wanted to be Barry's partner but ended up being his worst enemy. Also, if DC Studios does end up replacing Ezra Miller, they could just introduce Wally West as the new Flash without the need to recast Barry Allen. And with the introduction of Wally West, we could actually see the Teen Titans, a team of young sidekicks. The DCU's Batman movie, The Brave and the Bold, will introduce a new Robin, Damian Wayne, who is Batman's son. And he might join the Teen Titans, or it could be one of the many other Robins. Now, we will talk about Damian and The Brave and the Bold in our Batman video. Also, the upcoming Blue Beetle is canon to the DCU, so I could see Jaime Reyes joining the Teen Titans as well. Seriously, James Gunn, we need a Teen Titans movie. Barry and Wally are just the start. There is a whole Flash family in the comics. A bunch of other speedsters, like the original Flash from the Golden Age, Jay Garrick, who has a cameo in the movie. Also, Bart Allen, aka Impulse. And on top of the heroic speedsters, the Flash comics is filled with tons of evil speedsters. And those aren't the only cool villains we might see in the future. The Flash has one of comics' best rogues galleries, a long list of villains that includes Captain Cold, Gorilla Grodd, the Trickster, and Captain Boomerang, who already appeared in the Suicide Squad movies. Alright, so that's the Flash 2, but what happens after on the grand scale of the DCU? Well, the Flash introduced us to the multiverse in a big way, and this might be a hint to a major multiversal crossover event. In the climax of The Flash, we get a bunch of cameos from older movies like Christopher Reeve and even Nicolas Cage as Superman.
Nick Cage was Superman?
Almost. If you want to know how and why, check out our video breaking down Tim Burton's canceled Superman movie. Anyways, this is more than just an Easter egg. It's a confirmation that Michael Keaton's Batman could return. While the alternate universe in this movie was erased, this version of Batman still exists somewhere in the multiverse, so he could return in the future.
Let's get nuts.
The same could be said for Affleck's Batman, as well as Supergirl. I mean, we already know that she will be getting her own film, although it's unclear if Sasha Calle will return for that role, or if there's going to be a different Supergirl. But again, since it's a multiverse, a version of this Supergirl still exists somewhere out in the multiverse. And all of the DCEU actors could return, as well as most of the other previous actors from pretty much every DC movie or show.
Bring me everyone. What do you mean everyone?
Yeah, what is it with superhero movies nowadays? Why are they bringing all the old actors back?
Well, buddy, I guess everybody wants to hop aboard the multiverse train, and this is probably the perfect time to bring back older actors. Anyways, all of this could lead to the DCU's Crisis on Infinite Earths. Now, I mentioned this earlier. This was a huge crossover event in the 80s. The TLDR is this. There was a being called the Anti-Monitor. He was from the antimatter universe. He almost destroyed the multiverse with antimatter energy. In the end, he was defeated and the multiverse was erased and then combined into one singular universe. But this whole multiverse shenanigans started with The Flash. The Flash comics was the first to introduce the multiverse in the iconic story called The Flash of Two Worlds. And Flash played a big role in pretty much every major multiverse event. And the movie introduced the idea that Flash's time traveling could cause the multiverse to collapse. Universes start colliding and all of reality was at risk.
Anybody knows you gotta keep your worlds apart.
Barry's actions might end up having a far larger chain reaction in the multiverse. And things are going to get a lot worse once Flash fights Reverse Flash. So The Flash could be the beginning of a story arc that will eventually conclude with the movie version of Crisis on Infinite Earths. So yeah, the future of the DCU is bright and rich with all kinds of possibilities after The Flash. I really hope that The Flash 2 will adapt the Rebirth story and the Reverse Flash will be introduced. So what do you guys think the future of The Flash should be in the DCU? Do you think this Flash should even continue? And who's your favorite, Barry Allen or Wally West? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.